Hi, it's Katrina. Meteorite crash. Scientists have been left speechless following the crash of a meteorite onto some surprised guy's driveway in England. This was a seriously unexpected discovery. The fireball came down from the night sky, crashed into the driveway, and was later found by the owner of the property. The man said he heard some rattling the night of the meteorite impact, but didn't know what it was until the next morning. When he went outside, he started finding fragments of the incredibly rare space rock all over the place. Over the next few days, he collected and bagged bits of the meteorite from his driveway and garden, then took the fragments to the Natural History Museum to see what he was dealing with. This was the first time since 1991 that space rock was collected in the United Kingdom. The researchers quickly identified it as carbonaceous chondrite, saying it could even provide insight as to how the solar system looked during its formation over 4 billion years ago. Professor Sarah Russell with the museum said that only 51 such meteorites have been found on Earth, making the space rock rarer than just about anything. Even more amazing is that there are 2 space programs collecting these same types of rocks out in the solar system, with OSIRIS-REx bound to return to the planet with 60 grams of rocks in 2023. This guy found 300 grams of the rock, and he didn't even go to space. I know you were wondering, but no information has yet been released on how much money the man could get for his meteorite fragments. But seeing how rare they are, it will probably be a lot. Roman necropolis. Excavations in Slovenia have revealed a late Roman necropolis with over 350 mysterious skeletons. The excavations were ongoing for about a year, right in the middle of the street after evidence of the necropolis was found during road work. For 12 months, traffic was diverted to allow archaeologists space as they worked. Lanes closed and it caused a bit of a turmoil, but for pedestrians walking by, it was pretty exciting since they could follow the archaeologists' progress as they went to work or school. And right before the deadline came up, archaeologists found yet another structure, an early Christian church by the cemetery. The Roman necropolis was built back when the empire had an outpost here in Slovenia called Emona. So far, there have been over 40 stone sarcophagi unearthed, as well as a more complex tomb. The burials date back to between the 4th and 5th centuries, a time when the Roman Empire was already predominantly Christian. Surprisingly, the archaeologists found grave goods in a few of the burials, which is strange because once Christianity took hold, the practice of burying people with their valuables all but stopped. This just shows how long it took for Romans to give up their old ways and fully convert to the new religion. One of the most impressive artifacts found was a glass bowl inscribed in Greek inside the sarcophagus of a woman. Archaeologists believe she was probably an important member of society, perhaps even a nun. Her skeleton was found with cloth threaded with gold, in what seems to be the most ornate grave in the entire site. Snake legs. Did you know that snakes used to have legs? If not, you aren't the only one. Scientists have recently uncovered fossilized snakes that actually had legs, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. They are now struggling to understand how snakes turned into snakes millions of years ago, losing their legs and becoming the slithering serpents we know them as today. They are still trying to figure out if snakes evolved from normal lizards or from weird ocean reptiles. Using X-ray technology, scientists inspected the fossil to get a better look at the snake's anatomy, particularly the anatomy of its legs. They rendered 3D images that revealed the internal structure of the leg bones, coming to the conclusion that they most likely resemble the legs of modern lizards. There haven't been a lot of these fossils found. In fact, there are only 3 fossils in the world of snakes with leg bones. The newest fossil was found embedded in the rock in Lebanon, and it's been dated back 95 million years. The snake measures about 20 inches, with its legs less than an inch long. They were just little baby legs, probably inherited by the snake's earlier form as a lizard. However, scientists still don't know exactly which lizard led to the evolution of the snake, or why it even happened. The biggest handmade drawings. Scientists have uncovered the largest handmade drawings ever made by human hands. And no, I promise it's not the Nazca lines carved 2,000 years ago in the Peruvian desert. The Nazca lines are incredible depictions of plants, animals, and figures, some up to 30 miles long. But this recent discovery was made in the Thar Desert of India, a world away, and it's even larger than what was found in Peru in the 1930s. A father and son were the ones to identify these huge handmade drawings. They spotted 8 individual sites scattered in the Thar Desert in Rajasthan, linear figures that looked just like geoglyphs. The father and son duo made their discovery using Google Earth, so it could have been a trick of perspective, but it's actually legit. After identifying the lines, researchers went to the site and used a drone to conduct a survey. They found a massive spiral, the impossibly huge drawing of a serpent, and even memorial stones at key points where lines intersect. The designs are elaborate and in total cover a larger space than any other collection of geoglyphs in the world. They are also the first of their kind discovered in India. Researchers suggest they once covered an area of 50 miles. Even with the geoglyphs identified, researchers have no idea who made them. Perhaps a community of desert farmers or hunters. They might only be around 150 years old, but the lines haven't been professionally dated yet. Nobody in the area knows who built them either, making it a huge mystery. Seals with eels in their noses. Speaking of huge mysteries, young seals have been getting eels stuck up their noses, and scientists can't figure out why. This is one of the weirder, unexpected discoveries of the year. The Hawaiian monk seal research program has been finding Hawaiian monk seals with eels literally jammed up their nostrils. Up until recently, there had only been a few cases of this happening, according to Charles Littman, a conservation biologist. But recently, it's been happening with more frequency. Specifically, the seals are getting the eels stuck in their right nostril more often. The researchers don't have the slightest clue why. But how does this affect the seal? And for that matter, how does it even happen in the first place? Researchers believe that it has something to do with how lazy the seals are. They don't really like hunting for food, preferring to find meals that are hiding and easy to catch, like eels. So when the seals root around in the sand of coral reefs looking for animals that are hiding, they go after the eels. These eels might be jamming themselves purposely up the noses of the seals in self-defense, then getting stuck. Even grosser is that the seals might be barfing up the eels, causing them to squirt out their right nostril, kind of like if you spit up a noodle of spaghetti. Unfortunately, an eel in the nose is a death sentence. The seals can't breathe properly, and once the dead eel begins to rot, the bacteria could infect the seal and make it deathly ill. Luckily, researchers have been paying attention and removing the eels whenever they find them stuck in some poor young seal's nose. World War II dog tags. A 13-year-old boy named Max was out on a hike when he discovered a dog tag over 7 decades after it went missing. It was the dog tag of an Australian soldier who fought during World War II. Discovered in Lake District in England, Max came across what he at first thought was a dog collar. He saw metal sticking out from under a stone and investigated. He quickly realized he was holding on to somebody's dog tag. Inscribed on the tag was the name W.E. Wills. Max wanted to get to the bottom of the mystery. With help from his mother, he took to social media and posted details of the long-lost item. Before long, the owner was identified as Private William Ernest Wills, an airman who had been stationed in Britain during the war. He worked at an airbase just a couple miles from where the dog tag was found. The tag is even made from a piece of a British coin minted in 1917, the year the soldier was born. But from here, the story gets tragic. Max and his mother found out that even though the soldier returned home from the war alive, he died shortly thereafter from a car accident at the age of 43. Still, Max was able to ship the dog tag to the soldier's daughter, who was both emotional and thrilled to receive this piece of her father's history. I'd be thrilled too, wouldn't you? It's shout-out time! Thanks so much to Elizabeth Burns and Thomas Jones for supporting Origins Explained. We wouldn't be here without people like you, so big shout out to both of you, and if you are new here, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell for more videos about amazing discoveries. Aliens in Antarctica. In Antarctica, there may be a secret alien bunker hiding in plain sight. As outrageous as that sounds, something that resembles a mysterious base has been discovered on the continent thanks to Google Earth. As you may already know, Antarctica has been frozen for many thousands of years, which to many people means that the base must have been around before humans even started building cities. This begs the question, what were aliens doing building a base in Antarctica thousands of years ago, and how could it have influenced humanity? The base hasn't been 100% confirmed as real, of course. After all, the discovery was made looking at satellite images. In the images, there is clearly some kind of entrance located on the side of a snowy hill, seemingly unveiled thanks to melting snow and ice. There also appear to be tubes hidden beneath the ice, suggesting some kind of ventilation system. The base is also enormous, stretching for miles. If it does turn out to be real, the base likely could have contained an entire alien city. If it isn't an alien base, perhaps it's some sort of top-secret project, or just an optical illusion. There are others who claim the base isn't alien at all, but actually man-made. Perhaps the leftover ruin of some great civilized city that prospered on Antarctica before it was frozen. What do you think it is? Let me know in the comments below. Message in a bottle. A boat captain has discovered the unexpected. She found a legitimate message in a bottle in Michigan that dates back nearly 100 years. Captain Jennifer Dowker runs shipwreck tours through the waterways of Michigan. She's seen a lot of things in her life, but this was the first time she found an actual message stuffed inside of a bottle. She found the bottle while cleaning the windows of her glass-bottom boat completely by accident. After opening up the message, she was shocked to see that it was written in 1926. But who wrote the message, and what did it say? The small note requested that whoever discovered the bottle return the paper to someone named George Morrow Cheboygan. Considering how old the message is, that didn't seem like a very possible task. However, Dowker was able to track down George's descendants. After posting the story online, it went viral, and George's daughter, Michelle Primo, reached out in response, even claiming to recognize her dad's handwriting. He was probably 17 when he wrote the note, before Michelle was even born. Michelle said he used to do this kind of thing all the time, even tossing a message in a bottle into Lake Huron during a camping trip. He died in 1995, but now Michelle has the long-lost note to remember him by. Coins on the riverbank. In the Netherlands, a man with a metal detector discovered over 100 ancient Roman coins on the shore of the Aa River. It was quite a significant discovery, and after archaeologists got wind of it, they descended on the river in droves. An excavation ensued, resulting in the discovery of even more artifacts. Lisbeth Clays from Leiden University uncovered more coins, a bronze pendant from a horse's harness, and even some ancient axes. The coins discovered were minted sometime between 27 BC and 180 AD, but unfortunately for the fellow with the metal detector, the coins didn't prove to be very valuable. Historically significant, yes, but of pretty much no monetary value. But where did the Roman coins come from? That's the big question. Researchers believe they may have been tossed into the river on purpose by Romans who needed to cross it. They were basically offerings to whichever deity they believed controlled the river, allowing them to transport their valuable goods from one side to the other. Rivers were sacred in ancient Rome, and to not fall victim to bad luck or drowning, offerings needed to be made. Either that, or there was a troll who guarded the river, and all these coins were the toll paid for crossing it. Native American remains. Construction in Columbus, Indiana has led to a shocking discovery of Native American remains that could be between 2,000 and 3,000 years old. Archaeology professor Christopher Schmidt has been analyzing the remains, but still can't figure out just who they came from. The bones were found by construction workers building a foundation for a new building behind the local jail. After they found bones, they contacted the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, who got archaeologists involved. It quickly became apparent that the bones are ancient, definitely from before Europeans ever settled in America. Unknown to those who built the prison, they did so on an ancient burial ground. They're lucky they haven't been haunted by poltergeists all this time. Along with the dead bodies, archaeologists found artifacts from the 1800s, suggesting the burial ground had been used as a settlement 300 years ago. The big issue now is trying to figure out who the bones belong to. The remains predate any known Native American tribe in the area, making this a tough one. They could be relatives of the Shawnee or the Potawatomi tribes, but nobody's really sure. They could go back even further. Escaped rhinoceros. The Kansas City Zoo is home to many animals, but some that they are most proud of are their rhinos. They are working hard to keep subspecies of rhinos from going extinct, but in 2018, one of their 4 eastern black rhinos, Imara, got into a bit of trouble when she escaped her enclosure and nearly went on a homicidal rampage. Upon the rhino's escape, the zoo panicked and issued a warning that all the guests needed to take immediate shelter. Luckily, The rhino didn't actually make it out into any public areas. Still, she got away from the zookeeper, ended up in the staff-only area, and was threatening to burst through the walls. The zoo didn't come out and say exactly how she escaped. The spokesman for the zoo, Josh Hollingsworth, simply said it was pretty rare for something like this to happen. After an initial panic, the rhino was coerced back into her enclosure. Luckily, in this case, no people or animals were hurt. But the alert was code red because these cases are very unpredictable and no one wants anything bad to happen to an endangered species. This is a much better outcome than what happened in 1996, when a rare rhino broke out of its enclosure. The 3.5-ton female that had been at a privately owned zoo for only a couple of weeks broke through a welded pipe fence after fighting with a male rhino, said the zoo's curator, Ron Klein. The rhino was seen crossing a highway, and the police were worried she could cause an accident and even kill someone. They surrounded the rhino and chased her back across the highway to the zoo parking lot. They surrounded her again, but this time she felt cornered and charged towards one of the men, who ended up shooting her. Mauled by a bear. A woman from California was on a camping trip when she had a very grim encounter with a wild grizzly bear. By encounter, I mean the grizzly bear broke into her tent, dragged her out of it, and then mauled her to death, turning the camping trip into a horror story. The terrifying incident happened when Leah Loken, 65, from Chico, went on a cycling and camping trip in Montana. It was supposed to be a nice, ordinary trip full of great views and relaxing nights camping under the stars. Leah was with a small group of friends near the town of Ovando, camped in the wilderness, when the bear attacked. Even after it crashed through her tent and dragged her outside, the other campers tried to fight the rampaging beast off. They screamed and sprayed the animal with bear spray, and it eventually let Leah go. But by then, the damage was already done. The poor woman had been ripped to shreds. According to the Powell County Sheriff's Office, the bear was attracted to their campsite because it smelled food. It had actually been driven off once already, but it came back for revenge. And that was when the devastating attack occurred. Oddly enough, there had been an incident with a grizzly bear in the area 3 days prior raiding a local chicken coop. Officers believe it was this same bear responsible for the violent assault. As of right now, there has been no word on the whereabouts of the bear. If you're out camping in Montana, you should be aware that there is a huge, hungry, and very angry grizzly on the loose, with a taste for revenge. Killer crocodile. In East Africa, reports have been coming in of the most terrifying crocodile in human history. According to rumors, this killer croc has killed and eaten at least 300 people and is still believed to be on the loose. The croc goes by the name Gustav, and it's been blamed for hundreds of deaths in the African country of Burundi. The locals say this crocodile weighs over a ton and is roughly 18 feet long. Even the professional crocodile hunters in the area fear him, which may be why catching the murdering beast has become such a challenge. Every time the creature is sighted, the death toll shoots up a little more. Even more crazy is the estimated age of this monster reptile. Scientists say he could be anywhere from 60 to 100 years old, meaning he's an ornery old boy. It's no surprise that he seems to get more violent with each passing year. He's been shot at least 3 times during attempted captures, but bullets can't seem to kill him. No matter how many times he's blasted, he just comes back for more. In 2002, the French hunter Patrice Fay tried to catch the croc. He built a massive trap that failed. Patrice told the BBC that he and his team placed the trap in the Ruzizi River, stuffed it with bait, and spent the whole night watching it. But Gustav wasn't so easily tricked. He also spent the night there, though he didn't go anywhere near the trap, instead keeping his eyes on the hunters. Patrice claimed he got a good look at it, saying the crocodile is at least 3 times bigger than any other in Burundi. In the 3 months Patrice hunted Gustav, the crocodile devoured no less than 17 people. As of 2021, nobody knows if Gustav is still alive or not, though people continue to be killed by crocodiles in Burundi. Rabid skunk on the loose. A rabid skunk just about killed someone in Meadow Lakes. City officials recently had to remind residents to avoid all animals that are behaving strangely, especially skunks. The warning came after a woman was brutally attacked by a rabid skunk while minding her own business. She was out on a Sunday taking her puppy for a walk when the skunk appeared from nowhere just outside her fenced backyard. In a frenzy, the skunk leapt at the woman, sunk its teeth into her, and tried to bite off her leg. She suffered at least 5 bites on her leg and ankle and had to take an emergency trip to the hospital. Her dog was okay, but it was a close call. It was especially scary since the skunk was feral. After animal trackers hunted the wild skunk down and euthanized it, they performed a rabies test. The test came back positive, with the Texas Department of Health Services admitting the skunk had rabies. The woman had to get shots inside of her wounds to prevent her from being infected. Rabies can easily be transmitted to humans from animals through the saliva that gets into an infected wound, usually a bite. Believe it or not, this wasn't even the first time someone was attacked by a rabid animal in the area. Just a few months prior, another woman was attacked by a rabies-infested beast. It was a fox, and she also had a close call after the fox tried to gnaw her legs off. Burmese Python. At a mall in Louisiana, a 12-foot serpent was recently on the loose, threatening to eat pets, swallow children, and maybe even eat an old lady or two. The snake's name is Kara, a yellow Burmese python that managed to escape its enclosure at the Blue Zoo Aquarium inside the Mall of Louisiana, located in Baton Rouge. This wasn't a quick case of escape and capture like the rhino I told you about earlier. The search went on for days, and the danger was so real that the aquarium had to be closed. Burmese pythons are powerful predators and able to eat creatures way larger than themselves. If the snake got hungry and saw an opportunity, like a child alone wandering through the mall, it could easily suffocate them with its powerful muscles and then eat them whole. Luckily, there were no fatalities this time. Kara was eventually discovered hidden inside a wall. Workers had to physically cut a hole in the wall to get the slippery snake out, though they neglected to mention exactly which wall the snake was extracted from. According to the aquarium workers, Kara likely escaped her exhibit by pure force of will, pushing herself through a corner of her tank with raw power. Since the escape, the aquarium has beefed up their security, adding night vision cameras and motion sensors. Next time a highly dangerous serpent gets loose in the mall, hopefully it won't take them days to catch it. Camel running wild. In Collinsville, Oklahoma, a camel was caught running loose through the city on a Monday morning, inciting terror throughout the neighborhoods. The camel was spotted running around willy-nilly, seemingly with no owner and nowhere to go. It was literally just trotting through fields and along the side of the road. The local police had no idea what to do, nor did they know just what kind of dangers the wild camel posed to the public. According to the sheriff's office, it's not that unusual for them to get phone calls about wild animals on the loose. However, a camel was something new. They didn't know how to wrangle it, but luckily they knew where it had come from. The cops reached out to the owner for help getting the camel back home. Apparently, the owner had no idea how the camel escaped. It was living on his property with his other camel friend, waiting to start training so that the camel could appear in educational programs in the area and perform in nativity scenes for the local churches. But it didn't want to be a puppet, and so it tried to run away from home like an angsty teenager. With the help of the owner, the camel was taken home and locked up tight. It didn't even spit on anyone throughout the whole ordeal. Nebraska Bat Attack. There has been a disaster at the Nebraska Zoo. Officials recently had to tell their guests, a group of about 200 people who had simply wanted to look at some animals in a safe environment, that they should all get rabies shots because they were exposed to filthy, diseased bats. But that's not all. City officials warned the spectators of the Indiana Pacers and Los Angeles Clippers game that they may also have gotten rabies after a bat flew through Bankers Life Fieldhouse. It seems that bats are everywhere these days, and they all have rabies. The affair at the Nebraska Zoo happened when a pack of wild bats infiltrated the aquarium and started flapping around near the guests. Approximately 186 people may have contracted rabies after coming into contact with the bats. According to Dr. Sarah Woodhouse, the director of animal health at the Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium in Omaha, it's very common for bats to get rabies in the wild, and very easy for them to pass it along to humans. These bats snuck right into the aquarium and attacked the overnight guests who were having a sleepover experience, ruining their night and causing more trouble as they all had to be tested. Lizard escape. A large and potentially dangerous lizard recently escaped from Little Ray's Reptile Zoo in Ontario, Canada. The monitor lizard was reported at being nearly 4 feet in length. The zoo actually took to Facebook to ask the public for their help in tracking the reptile down, after it slipped straight through the front door and ran off into the concrete jungle of the city. Even though the zoo claimed the lizard wasn't dangerous, They still said nobody should try to capture the massive animal. It might not attack anyone on purpose, as it would be trying to avoid humans, but it would definitely bite any stranger who tried to pick it up. And seeing as the lizard was basically a miniature Komodo dragon, that would be one nasty bite. This is one of those unfortunate cases in which the animal was never found. The huge lizard ran, hid, and then was gone. The only good news is that it's probably not dead, but living in the city underground somewhere, munching on rats and growing bigger, waiting to take its revenge. Pack of wild coyotes. A woman and her dog recently survived a disastrous encounter with a wild pack of coyotes. It happened in the California neighborhood of Woodland Hills, when a pack of at least 12 coyotes appeared out of nowhere and tried to eat the woman and her pet. According to local resident Michael Siebold, the coyotes have been a problem for years, and recently their numbers have doubled. And while residents have been wary of the coyotes, there were never any attacks, until now. The coyotes actually showed up to Michael's front gate. It was his wife that became the victim of their violence. They broke the front gate, at which point the family dog took off down the street after them, barking. Michael's wife chased the dog, but when she got to the bottom of the street, there was a whole pack waiting for her. Luckily, one of the neighbors saw what was going on and came to help. Together, they managed to scare the coyotes away, though not before they did some damage to the poor dog. The dog suffered bites and cuts on his back and paws, and all because he'd been protecting the woman from the coyotes. If not for the quick-thinking neighbor, the dog may have been mauled to death, followed by the unsuspecting woman. As for the coyotes, they retreated into the hills and have yet to be seen again. But they're still out there, waiting to eat the neighborhood dogs. Giant cobra. One of the most venomous snakes in the entire world was recently pulled out of somebody's house in India after it broke in and threatened to kill everyone inside. I'm talking about the legendary king cobra, the longest venomous snake on the planet. It's not clear how the horrifying snake got into the house, but it's not that surprising. Things like this happen all the time in India, with countless king cobra encounters a year. In this case, the residents were lucky. They got a hold of the forest department's rapid response team, and an expert snake handler showed up to wrangle the creature. The officer was recorded on video pulling the huge snake out from under a table, absolutely fearless. Once he had the snake in hand, the thing even started wrapping its body around the officer, and the spectators gasped in horror. But this guy was a professional. He took the snake onto the rooftop, stuffed it into a special snake bag, and then took it away to be relocated. He even posted a video later showing him releasing the snake back into its natural habitat. Hopefully the snake doesn't return to the house to seek revenge. Viking Berserker. Viking warriors were well trained to use a variety of weapons, but the battle axe struck fear into the hearts of many. An unknown Viking warrior may have changed world history forever. The Battle of Stamford Bridge in September of 1066 marked the end of the Viking Age. The battle was between King Harold Godwinson of England and the invading Viking forces led by King Harold Sigurdsson. That year, there were 300 Viking ships on their way to England, led by King Harold's brother. The English king took his army to meet the Nordic army, catching them completely by surprise. When it came time for battle, the Vikings were cut down as they tried to retreat across a bridge. But here the English were stopped by a mighty Viking wielding an enormous axe all alone. Based on an Anglo-Saxon chronicle, we know that this massive Norse axe warrior blocked the narrow crossing and single-handedly held up the army. He cut down as many as 40 English soldiers until he was finally defeated, stabbed from under the bridge. Nobody knows what this warrior's name was, but he has gone down in history as a legend. So many died in the river and around the bridge that it was rumored that even 50 years later, bones were still covering the fields. The defeat of the Norsemen marked the end of the Viking Age. Soldier Million. Aníbal Milhos was a farmer from northern Portugal who was drafted into the military in 1915 during World War I. 2 years later, he traveled to France with the 2nd Infantry Division of the Portuguese Expeditionary Corps, and they were deployed to the front lines. In April 1918, Milhos took part in the Battle of the Lys, also known as Operation Georgette, and the Battle of Estaire, the second of 2 spring offensives launched by German General Erich Ludendorff. It would prove to be the costliest engagement of the war for the Portuguese in terms of human lives. The night before, the 2nd Division and a Scottish regiment they had fought alongside received an order to pack up and withdraw from the field for rest after suffering many casualties and extreme exhaustion from months of warfare. The Germans attacked in the early morning hours. Milhos remained behind as the rest of his group retreated. To give the impression that his position was heavily defended, he shot from different locations until he ran out of ammunition, killing many Germans and effectively covering his fellow troops' withdrawal. The Germans bypassed Milhos' position, so he followed them alone for 3 days until he encountered a Scottish major who was separated from his unit. The pair traveled together to safety. Milhos kept silent about his actions against the Germans, but the major he assisted informed his superiors of the brave soldiers' heroic deeds, for which Milhos received Portugal's highest military award, the Military Order of the Tower and Sword. While presenting the award, Major Ferreira do Amaral told Milhos that his actions were worth 1,000,000 soldiers, earning him the nickname of Soldier Million. Boudica. Boudica, queen of the British Celtic Iceni tribe, defied tradition around 60 AD when she led an uprising against the conquering Roman Empire in Britain. Her husband, King Prasutagus, ruled the Iceni tribe and had an uneasy alliance with the Romans. When he died, leaving no male heirs, the Romans ignored his will, which granted his kingdom jointly to both Rome and his daughters. They annexed the kingdom by force, publicly flogging the women and humiliating them as a psychological warfare strategy. Instead of weakening them, it enraged Boudica, who gathered a large army of Celtic tribes and led a revolt. They destroyed Camulodunum, a settlement for discharged Roman soldiers and home to a temple, as well as 2 other cities. Boudica and her followers tortured and killed somewhere between 70,000 and 80,000 Romans and British, causing Emperor Nero to consider withdrawing forces from Britain. However, Boudica was ultimately defeated. It's not clear what happened to her. One story goes that she may have killed herself to avoid capture, or she may have died later from an illness, but her refusal to back down to one of the most powerful empires in history makes her a hero and a powerful symbol of the United Kingdom. Diprasad Pun. Diprasad Pun is a sergeant of the Royal Gurkha Rifles, or RGR, a rifle regiment of the British Army that recruits Nepalese soldiers. These elite warriors are known for their exceptional bravery and skills. While on sentry duty at a checkpoint outside his unit's compound in Afghanistan one night in September 2010, Sergeant Pun discovered a pair of insurgents trying to lay an IED in a road nearby. He quickly realized he was surrounded by Taliban fighters armed with AK-47s and RPGs who launched a well-devised assault on the post. Pun fought back against the attackers using every weapon available to him. He shot back with his machine gun until it ran out of ammunition, then tossed 17 hand grenades and a landmine at the enemy before resorting to his SA-80 service rifle. At one point, a Taliban fighter climbed on top of a nearby building and rushed toward Pun, whose weapon misfired. The quick-thinking soldier took the tripod used for holding his machine gun and threw it at the enemy's face, knocking him off the building's roof. Pun continued fighting alone, leaving as many as 30 Taliban soldiers dead by the time reinforcements arrived. Queen Elizabeth II awarded him the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross for his courageous and vigilant actions. At the ceremony, Pun said that at the time I wasn't worried. There wasn't any choice but to fight. The Taliban were all around the checkpoint. I was alone. I had so many of them around me that I thought I was definitely going to die, so I thought I'd kill as many of them as I could before they killed me. Sempronius Densis. Sempronius Densis was a centurion in the Praetorian Guard of the Imperial Roman Army, which was tasked with protecting the deputy emperor. In 69 AD, the Emperor Galba chose a man named Piso Licinanus as deputy emperor. This enraged Marcus Otho, a powerful citizen who had expected to be appointed to the position. The embittered loser responded to Galba's unexpected choice by conspiring to assassinate both him and Piso Licinanus. While Galba and the newly chosen deputy emperor rode through the streets 5 days later, a group of renegade Praetorians under Otho's command attacked the pair. Some of the soldiers fled the scene, while others joined in on the assault. Sempronius Densis was the only Praetorian who acted according to his duties. First, he forcefully opposed the rebellious soldiers, and when that wasn't enough, Sempronius began fighting them. His actions bought time for Piso, the deputy emperor, to escape to safety. The philosopher and historian Plutarch wrote that Sempronius died defending Galba and Piso after being cut beneath his knees and falling to the ground. Tacitus, on the other hand, claimed that Galba died first. Either way, it's clear that Sempronius kept his commitment to defend the men, unlike his fellow soldiers, and he paid for it with his life. These and other accounts of the event all agree, however, that the assassins hacked up Galba's corpse and paraded it through the streets with his head on a stick. Meanwhile, 2 Praetorians found Piso hiding in a temple. They dragged him outside and killed him. Simo Haya. Hailing from a family of farmers in southern Finland near the Russian border, Simo Haya joined the Finnish White Guard, a voluntary militia, at age 17, before continuing on to serve for the Finnish army. He proved himself an expert marksman and received sniper training in 1938, on the eve of the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union that broke out the following year. In just 98 days, Haya killed hundreds of enemy soldiers, averaging around 5 kills per day amid biting sub-zero temperatures and limited daylight hours. He achieved his highest daily count on December 2, 1939, with 25 kills. Haya's diary, which was discovered in 2017, estimates his total kills at around 500, while various military records credit him with at least 438 kills and as many as 518. Some historians are skeptical of these large numbers, but there is also no evidence to suggest that they are deliberately exaggerated, and it is generally agreed upon that he was responsible for at least 200 kills. Haya himself never spoke of his wartime activities. He remained largely out of sight, quietly taking out the enemy, but the Finnish press used him as a propaganda tool starting early on in the war, making him an official hero. And now for number 4. But first, want to give a big shout out to James Connell and David L. Thanks so much for being a part of Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe before you go for more videos like these. And let me know your favorite warrior or warrior culture in the comments below. Saito Ben K. Saito Musashibo Ben K, or Ben K for short, was a Japanese warrior monk who lived during the latter years of the Heian period. A popular figure of Japanese folklore, he is commonly depicted as incredibly strong, fiercely loyal, and of an exceptionally large build, reaching 6.6 feet tall by the time he was 17 years old. From an early age, Ben K faced prejudice for his monstrous size and his wild hair and long teeth, earning him the nickname the Devil's Child. After a stint at a Buddhist monastery, he became a member of a sect of mountain ascetic hermits, known as the Yamabushi. Then he went rogue and became a warrior. Ben K was armed with 7 weapons, which he is often depicted carrying on his back, including a sword, a broad axe, a sickle, wooden mallet, iron staff, Japanese glaive, and a saw. According to legend, Ben K saw samurai warriors as arrogant and distrustful. He challenged 999 of them to duels and won every time, collecting another samurai's sword with each victory. Ben K lost his 1000th challenge against a young man named Minamoto no Yoshitsune, who carried a gilded sword. After losing to Yoshitsune a second time, Ben K became the skilled swordman's retainer, and they made plenty of enemies along the way. When 500 samurai encircled the pair, making escape impossible, Yoshitsune retreated to commit ritual suicide, while Ben K faithfully stood guard against the soldiers, single-handedly killing 300 of them. Realizing that close confrontation would never work against Ben K, the samurai retreated and killed him from a distance with arrows. When they approached, they found the dead warrior still standing in a final display of loyalty and honor for his master. David Goggins. David Goggins has faced his fair share of challenges in life. Born in 1975, the Buffalo native experienced racism starting in his childhood and started working as early as age 6 at his family's skating rink. After failing the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery test twice, he was accepted into United States Air Force pararescue training. But he struggled with the program's swimming requirements, and when he tested positive for sickle cell anemia not long after, he was let go from the program. But Goggins didn't let this or anything else stop him from becoming one of the toughest warriors of all time. He returned to the Air Force, completed tactical air control party training, and worked this position from 1994 until he left the Air Force in '99. After his service ended, Goggins battled depression and obesity, peaking at nearly 300 pounds. But a documentary about Hell Week, the most difficult part of Navy SEAL training, inspired him to join the Navy, even though he was older than the average recruit. It took several tries just to convince a recruiter to give him a chance. In 2001, after 3 attempts at some of the United States military's most challenging training and suffering from pneumonia and stress fractures along the way, Goggins successfully completed Hell Week. He was assigned to SEAL Team 5 and served in Iraq. Then, in 2004, the unstoppable soldier graduated from Army Ranger School and received the Top Honor Man Award. Goggins is the only member of the American Armed Forces to complete TACP training, SEAL training, and Ranger School, and his achievements don't stop there. As an accomplished endurance athlete, he has completed over 60 ultramarathons, triathlons, and ultra-triathlons, many that involved running over 100 miles, and regularly placed in the top 5. Goggins even finished the Badwater 35, a 135-mile mountainous run in the extreme heat that many consider to be the most challenging race on Earth. He also holds the 2013 Guinness World Record for pull-ups, having completed 4,030 in 17 hours. While he may not have killed the most amount of people or fought an army all alone, there is more to being a warrior than that. He is definitely one of the toughest men alive. Pyrrhus of Epirus. Over 2,000 years ago, a man named Pyrrhus ruled the most powerful tribe in Epirus, giving him control over the region that encompasses modern-day northwest Greece and southern Albania, and at times Macedonia. He reigned on and off between 306 and 272 BC, and is considered one of Alexander the Great's greatest successors. Pyrrhus resembled Alexander with his military abilities. He was highly respected by other generals throughout antiquity, including many who relied on a warfare manual that he wrote. In 282 BC, Pyrrhus responded to a plea for help from the people of Tarentum, an ancient Greek city that was warring with Rome. He traveled to southern Italy the following year with a large Hellenistic army, largely consisting of heavy cavalry and elephants, the latter of which the Romans had never encountered in warfare. Over the following several years, Pyrrhus secured 2 major victories, including one at Heraclea where he was vastly outnumbered. As a hands-on general, he never shied away from the battlefield. Instead, he fought alongside his warriors, encouraging them through even the heaviest action. Combat took an immense toll on the military, leaving Pyrrhus without some of his best and most dedicated soldiers. Meanwhile, replacements became scarce. In the aftermath of the 2 victories, he realized that their cost wasn't worth it, stating, "Another such victory and we shall be utterly ruined." The self-reflective statement gave rise to the term Pyrrhic victory, which is when someone pays an immense price to win. Have you ever heard of this? Let me know in the comments below. Pyrrhus never regained his military might, but nevertheless continued to engage in battles. He died in a street fight in 272 BC. First female Green Beret. In 2016, the Pentagon opened all combat and special operations jobs to women for the first time in U.S. history. A few years later, one female soldier, whose identity has been kept secret, became one of only a few women to ever pass the initial 24-day assessment to qualify for the Special Forces Qualification Course, or the Q course. The assessment tests candidates' fundamental skills, including land navigation and marching with heavy combat gear, Thomas Gibbons Neff reported in the New York Times. From there, Special Forces supervisors evaluate each soldier to determine their readiness for the Q course. The anonymous female soldier made the cut and excelled through her training, according to a senior Army official who revealed to Military.com that the woman was slated to graduate from the intensive 53-week program. She successfully completed the Q course and was the first woman to become a Green Beret after the military lifted its restrictions on jobs that only men were previously allowed to serve. Green Berets work on the front lines, specializing in intelligence and operations, weapons, medical, engineering, and communications. Former Army Captain Kathleen Wilder became the first woman to complete the Q course in 1983, but was denied permission to graduate because she was a woman. She filed and won a discrimination lawsuit, enabling her to wear her rightfully earned Special Forces patch for the remainder of her career. The Giant King. The Teutons were first mentioned by the Romans several hundred years before Christ. As far as historical records show, the Romans considered the Teutons were a tribe of savage Europeans who often went to war with the Roman Republic. They were described by Julius Caesar as a Germanic people, meaning they came from north of the Rhine. Nobody knows exactly who these people were or where they originated from, though some historians say they probably had some relation to the ancient Celts. The Teutons fought the Roman Empire and won at Norea and Arausio in 105 BC. However, they were defeated during the Cimbrian War a few years later. Their leader and king was named Teutobochus, and apparently he was a giant. A literal giant. In 1613, a collection of large bones was discovered by masons digging near some ruins in Dauphine. The masons uncovered a brick tomb about 18 feet underground. It was a very big tomb, and when they opened it, they found a human skeleton allegedly 25 feet long, which they assumed belonged to the dead Teuton king. It was described at the time as having teeth the size of an ox's foot, with a shin bone that measured at least 4 feet in length. However, this discovery was quickly labeled as forbidden and swept under the rug. The actual circumstances of the discovery were murky at best, and the bones were briefly displayed in Paris before an anatomist dismissed them as being the bones of an elephant. In the 1980s, the bones were labeled as belonging to a mastodon, and the legend of the giant king of the Teutons was put to rest. The Devil's Bible. The Devil's Bible, also known as the Codex Gigas, is one of the most forbidden historical books in the world. This massive tome is the biggest medieval manuscript anywhere on the planet, and it's believed to have been written by just one monk who lived in Bohemia, modern-day Czech Republic. The book is 620 pages, 3 feet tall, and famous for its large and colorful depiction of the devil. The story goes that the book was written in the 13th century by the monk Herman the Recluse, who was sentenced to death for breaking his monastic vows. In exchange for his life, he promised to create the most beautiful book with all the knowledge of his day gathered in one place. Inside the book are both the New and Old Testaments, as well as some collections of historical documents, extreme practices such as exorcism, and medical works of Hippocrates. There are also other parts included from other philosophers and academics of the day. But perhaps the strangest part of the book is that there is an entire page, seemingly out of place, that has a full-color picture of the Dark Lord of Hell. It defies all explanation because there seems to be no reason for the picture to be there. Legend goes he sold his soul to the devil to gain his freedom, and so the Prince of Darkness plays a prominent role in the Codex. Regardless of the legend, the writing of the entire book does suggest it was written all by the same person. In order to create such a giant book in the 13th century, the person would have needed to work 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 5 whole years. But because he was a monk and had monk duties to take care of, it probably took him upwards of 10 years to write it. Then when you consider that he actually had to decorate the manuscript and probably made some mistakes along the way, historians estimate it took him between 20 and 30 years. It's a life's work that we are still talking about today. Originally, the Devil's Bible, or the Codex Gigas, was made up of 320 vellum pages made from the skin of 160 donkeys. At some point, 10 pages of the book were removed and disappeared forever. If you are curious about it, the pages of the Devil's Bible have been posted online for everyone to see. Don't be afraid. Nothing bad will happen if you read it, I'm pretty sure. The Sunken City. There has been recent speculation of a mysterious sunken city off the coast of Cuba, which some say could be the lost city of Atlantis. There has been absolutely no official documentation from professional archaeologists. However, that doesn't mean the city's not down there. According to some recent reports, it was an underwater team of explorers from Canada who stumbled upon a strange collection of stone structures while mapping the ocean floor using sonar equipment. They found unusual formations about 1,500 feet below the surface. These formations included geometric shapes and smooth blocks, as if belonging to the ruins of ancient buildings, including pyramids. They were scattered across a small patch of ocean on the western side of Cuba. The immediate suggestion was that these structures are part of a lost urban settlement that somehow found its way underwater. The city was so big that it could have held several thousand people, maybe even more. What's truly shocking about the discovery is that early estimates place the ruins at being around 50,000 years old. The earliest people in the Americas are believed to have arrived some 20,000 to 13,000 years ago. So where did this come from? Who could have built this place? If it even is a human-made place at all. The discovery so far remains a mystery. The Nampa Image. In 1889, a small human figurine was discovered in the town of Nampa, Idaho. It happened while a crew of workers were drilling a well. The small figurine would turn into one of the most forbidden pieces of archaeology in modern memory. It was found at a depth of around 320 feet, which technically would mean it was buried deep underground, many centuries before humans ever arrived in the Americas. This is based on the sediment in which the figure was found. The second bizarre thing is that the figurine was obviously crafted by human hands. It was made in the shape of a small person, with a head, arms, and legs. Even though this was a legit discovery made by oil workers, none of whom had any interest in making it up, the Nampa Image, as it came to be known as, has all but been ignored by the modern scientific community. The out-of-place artifact has gained a lot of attention from conspiracy theorists. There are some theories as to where the figurine could have come from. One of the most popular is that it came from the earliest North American settlers around 13,000 years ago and was buried over the centuries by flooding and volcanic activity, being preserved underground until the miners stumbled upon it. A more complicated theory is that the figure belonged to a much earlier race of humans, one that scientists have yet to identify. UFOs in Antarctica. Something very strange has been found near a remote mountain range in Antarctica. This forbidden discovery was made thanks to Google Earth, arguably one of the greatest inventions for amateur archaeologists ever. While checking out satellite images of Antarctica, an unnamed internet sleuth discovered what appeared to be a pair of metallic UFOs, partly frozen in the snow. At first glance, it seems each craft is nearly 100 feet long. They also look obviously out of place compared to the snowy tundra around them. In reality, the UFOs appear to be twice the size of a standard American fighter jet. They are identical in size, perfectly circular, and may not have been where they are for very long, seeing as they're only slightly covered in snow. They were found next to the Churchill Mountains, one of the most remote places in all of Antarctica. But how do we know these are legit UFOs and not just shiny rocks? The truth is that we can't know for certain. With all the declassified documents coming to light recently regarding UFOs, the military would like to remind us that the appropriate term is Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, or UAP, if we want these things to be taken seriously. And it could be possible that there are unidentified crashed vessels in remote places. But for the time being, scientists haven't answered any questions about them, and pretty soon, chances are they'll vanish from Google Maps altogether. Stolen alien skulls. Researchers were left shocked when they discovered strange, elongated skulls from an ancient necropolis dating back 5,000 years. The skulls were found in the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta. There were almost a dozen weird skulls that may have belonged to a race of people with unusual human features, maybe even larger brains. This discovery has been a terrible mystery from beginning to end. First of all, the hypogeum is considered to be the oldest underground temple and necropolis ever found. The skulls were found back in 1902, with National Geographic even reporting in 1920 that the first inhabitants of Malta may have been a race of humanoids with elongated skulls. The incredible part about the skulls is that they seem to have developed this shape naturally, rather than by some artificial means. In the early 1900s, researchers noted that the skulls did not show signs of cranial deformity by the use of boards or ropes, as with many of the other long-skulled cultures of the world. Instead, the weird shape of the skulls seemed to be completely natural. The science only lasted so long, though. The belief is that scientists can't have everyone in the world knowing that there was once an ancient race of people with elongated skulls, potentially even aliens who somehow got stranded on Earth. By 1985, the elongated skulls were debunked by force. Scientific agencies crawled out of every corner to debunk the skulls as nothing extraordinary. Then, shortly after, the skulls vanished from every museum they were stored in. For over 3 decades now, the skulls have been out of sight, and nobody knows what happened to them, if they were ever actually found in Malta at all. Just want to give a big shout out to Terrific Tristan and Jennifer Ballesteri. Thanks so much for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more mysterious discoveries. The Fuente Magna Bowl. The Fuente Magna Bowl is an old and mysterious artifact allegedly discovered in 1549, while Spanish conquistadors were hunting for the capital of the Inca Empire. The Spanish got lost and ended up in Bolivia, where they found the ruins of an ancient site known as Tiahuanaco. This was a large ruin close to the more popular archaeological site of Pumapunku. Archaeologists and historians believe that Tiahuanaco was once the center of a civilization with mysterious ties to the world of ancient Sumer. The reason for this connection is the Fuente Magna Bowl, a unique chunk of ceramic discovered in the broken city that surely belonged to the lost people who used to live there. Yet it is covered in cuneiform script from ancient Sumeria all the way on the other side of the world. What is ancient Sumerian writing doing in the Americas? Dr. Alberto Marini translated the writings into ancient Sumerian. The script has a lot of similarities to other languages throughout the Indus Valley, the original cradle of civilization. But how did the ancient South Americans figure out the exact same script? The unfortunate truth is that nobody has a concrete answer for this. Some say the bowl was crafted by a small group of Sumerians that managed to reach Bolivia around the year 2500 BC. However, as of yet, there has been no way to prove the theory. Australian hieroglyphics. Speaking of writing in the wrong place, why are there Egyptian hieroglyphics in Australia that date back 5,000 years? From what we know, the hieroglyphs were first spotted in the early 1900s. There are about 250 stone carvings in the area, apparently linked to the local folklore. But what's really strange about the carvings is that they look identical to carvings found on the walls of ancient Egyptian temples. The hieroglyphics are nearly identical, but for whatever reason, there has been no media coverage and no scientists seem interested in investigating them, whether to debunk them as a hoax or certify them as the real deal. The Australian hieroglyphics can be found in the Brisbane Water National Park. Local residents claim the hieroglyphics are very ancient, and even more mysterious is that they haven't been translated by any Egyptologists. Some claim this is because they weren't actually made by Egyptians, but were part of a modern prank, while others believe the traditions of ancient Egypt somehow made it all the way to Australia. How it happened is still unknown. Japan's sunken pyramid. Off the coast of Japan, there is a stone structure that appears to be the ruin of a primitive pyramid that dates back 5,000 years. In fact, the pyramid is believed to be part of a much larger city that sank off the coast of Yonaguni-jima after a deadly earthquake 2,000 years ago. At least this is what Masaki Kimura says, the marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, who found the giant pyramid while diving at the site nearly 20 years ago. The sunken pyramid off the coast of Japan is one of the most controversial archaeological sites on the planet because it has been documented thoroughly. There is no denying that the pyramid exists. It looks like a huge man-made structure that rises 82 feet from the ocean floor. It has smooth levels that are uniform, terraces and steps that are clearly man-made, and there are the remains of what could be roads and buildings scattered throughout the area. But despite the pyramid in the ocean, almost every mainstream scientist has denounced it as a natural formation. But according to Masaki, there is not a single thing natural about this pyramid. Nature doesn't just make terraced pyramids, it doesn't happen. The government of Japan has refused to recognize the area as an archaeological site. According to National Geographic, not a single government group will carry out research or assist with preservation of the mysterious pyramid. Masaki and his team even claim to have found pottery and evidence of humans living there, but nobody else is looking. Never before has such a seemingly real archaeological discovery been swept so efficiently under the rug. Organic artifacts. Weird organic artifacts have been found near the Nazca Lines in Peru, and some experts are claiming they could be evidence of ancient life forms. They were found by an unidentified person who claims they are the mummified skulls of aliens. This is one of the weirder and less believable discoveries, but there could be some merit to it. The strange-looking artifacts appear to be organic, like fossilized human heads. The only difference is that they have very large eyes and very tiny heads, looking like little green men. In the area, there was also a weird appendage discovered that only had 3 fingers, with each finger being longer than the average human hand. Together, the skulls and severed hands seem to make up mummified body parts of an unknown life form, though to be honest, nobody's sure if these artifacts are real. If they are, they don't resemble any creature living on the planet. Thanks for watching! Which of these mysterious discoveries do you think is the most legitimate? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!